Welcome to a Clash of Titans. It's the CCT final, and we have Nodirbek Abdusattorov facing off against Fabiano Caruana. With everything on the line, expect fireworks from two of the absolute best in the world. And we open with a classic Nimzo Indian defense. Both players develop logically, staking their claims in the center and bringing their pieces into the game with textbook precision. The tension in the center breaks. A series of exchanges clarifies the pawn structure, with pawns and a knight coming off the board. Both sides now prepare to get their kings to safety. The final pieces are developed. White's bishop tucks back to c2, and the queen slides over to d3. A subtle move, but it's already eyeing potential action on the king side. Black prepares a solid defense. And here it is, queen to g3 from Abdusattorov, a brilliant deep positional move. The fantastic idea is to sacrifice a pawn to rip open the black king's position. If black plays naturally, bishop moves to g7, white smashes through with the pawn to h4. After queen to c7, the white queen repositions to f3, and the attack is on. But Caruana goes for knight takes knight on c3, and this is an inaccuracy. It helps white's plan. The better defense was to play bishop to g7 immediately. Now white could have punished this with bishop to g5, and after queen to b6 and bishop to a4, white is simply winning a piece. White recaptures on c3, and after black plays bishop to g7, the attack begins with the pawn charging up to h4. The queen shifts to a5 and the knight reroutes to e7 to help defend. And Abdusattorov keeps the pressure on, ramming the pawn forward to h5, directly challenging black's kingside pawn shield. Wow, an incredible response. Knight to f5, a brilliant counter-sacrifice from Caruana. He throws his knight into the fire to block white's attack and completely disrupt the coordination of the white pieces. White has no choice but to accept the sacrifice, and the bishop takes the knight on f5. And the queen recaptures on f5, now a powerful piece controlling key squares from the center of the board. White continues the assault, pushing the pawn to h6. This forces the black bishop to move from its excellent post on g7. Black is under immense pressure here and needs to find the most accurate defense. The move played, however, is an inaccuracy that gives white a golden opportunity. The much better try was pawn to f6. After bishop to d2, bishop to f8, queen to e3, and pawn to e5, black shores up the defense. But in the game, black drops the bishop back to f8, and this allows white to play the punishing queen to h4. The follow-up involves bishop takes pawn on f6, and after a series of trades, white simply wins a piece. And Abdusattorov pounces. The queen swings over to h4, immediately capitalizing on black's error. Black plays queen to d5, but this is another inaccuracy in a tough position. Better was queen to a5. This allows white to bring another piece into the attack with knight to f4. The knight leaps into f4, and after the queen sidesteps to a5, the knight calmly repositions to d3, eyeing the critical e5 square. And now bishop to d7 from black is an inaccuracy that proves very costly. The best chance was to challenge the center with pawn to e5. Instead, this move allows white to play the crushing knight to e5, establishing a monster piece and a winning attack. The knight lands on e5, and the pressure is immense. The rook lifts to d3, preparing to join the fight, while black's bishop causes some trouble on c2. The rook swings over to f3, and black challenges with pawn to f5. White plays bishop to f6, which is a slight inaccuracy. The engine preferred the more direct knight to d7, which would have posed even greater problems for black. Black's queen moves to c7, and this is a serious mistake. White had a crushing refutation here with queen to g5. The point is that after bishop takes the pawn on h6, queen takes the bishop back, and after rook to f8, bishop to h4 simply wins material and the game. And white had a knockout blow right here, a move that would have ended the game on the spot. But in the heat of battle, the chance was missed. The winning move was queen to g5. After bishop takes the pawn on h6, queen takes the bishop, rook to f8, and bishop to h4, white is winning decisive material. Instead of that, white plays rook to g3, and Caruana is let off the hook. A huge moment in this game. Black gets a breather and correctly challenges white's monster knight with bishop to d6, as white brings the other rook over to e1. Black plays rook to f8, another slight inaccuracy. The best defense was to immediately trade pieces with bishop takes the knight on e5 to relieve some of the pressure, and white pushes the pawn to f4. It's a good move, but once again the computer screams for queen to g5, which would have ramped up the pressure to a breaking point. But now black finds it. Bishop takes knight on e5, a great move and the only one to keep the fight alive. This was the critical idea. White's rook recaptures on e5, black's rook comes to e8, and after rook to c5, queen to b6 holds everything together. After the trade on e5, the game enters a complex endgame. White pushes the c-pawn, creating a new front, while black establishes a very strong bishop on e4. The rooks maneuver for position. Both sides continue to probe. The rooks improve their positions, white advances the a-pawn, and finally black decides to resolve the tension by taking the pawn on c5. White recaptures, creating a passed c-pawn. Now begins a long maneuvering phase as both kings step up and the pieces jockey for control of key squares in this incredibly tense endgame. Abdusattorov's strategy is clear. Create threats on both sides of the board. The a-pawn marches forward and a rook lifts to the b-file, preparing to invade. Black's pieces are stretched thin, trying to defend everywhere. Black's queen shifts over, but it's not the most accurate defense. A better move would have kept white's advantage to a minimum. The best try was queen to e7, then after queen to f2, pawn to g5, bishop to d6, and queen to f6, black is still fighting. But in the game, Caruana plays queen to d8. This gives white a chance to force a queen trade with queen takes queen on d8, leading to a completely winning rook endgame. But white misses it. Queen to f2 is an inaccuracy. Abdusattorov overlooks the winning queen trade and instead allows black's queen to snap off the pawn on a5. And now, Caruana misses his chance. Rook to e7 is an inaccuracy, letting the a-pawn live. He had to play queen takes pawn on a5. This mistake allows a new winning tactic for white, starting with queen to h4, which would have won black's queen. Incredible. Both players are missing chances. White pushes the pawn to a6, another inaccuracy. Abdusattorov also misses the winning shot queen to h4, and the advantage slips away again. The game continues. The rooks shuffle back and forth as both players, perhaps in time trouble, try to regroup and find a new plan in this chaotic position. And queen to d8, again from black, is the mistake that turns the tide for good. This allows white to play the powerful pawn push to c6, and the attack is back on with decisive force. White strikes with pawn to c6, creating a massive threat. Black is forced to capture it, and the rook takes the pawn on c6, and rook takes rook on c6 is a great move from white. This is the key to the whole combination, clearing the c-file to set up a devastating invasion with the other rook. Black recaptures with the bishop on c6, but this is an inaccuracy. It allows white's other rook to swing over to b8 with absolutely crushing effect. There it is, rook to b8, a fantastic game-winning shot from Abdusattorov. The threat is unstoppable. The point is, if black plays rook to d2, queen takes the pawn on a7 with check. After queen blocks on e7, queen takes queen is check, and white wins the queen and the game. Black's position is collapsing, and this next move is the final decisive blunder. There was only one way to prolong the fight. The only defense was rook to d2. After queen takes the pawn on a7 check, queen to e7, the queens are traded, and while white is better, the game goes on. But instead, black plays queen to a5. This is a complete oversight, and it walks right into a tactic that ends the game on the spot. White can now play queen to h4, winning black's queen by force. And queen to h4 is the final brilliant move of the game. It's over. The threat of rook takes rook on d8 is unstoppable, and after the queen recaptures, white's queen will take it, winning a decisive amount of material, and after that final crushing move, Fabiano Caruana resigns. His position is completely hopeless, facing catastrophic material loss. A hard-fought and spectacular victory for Nodirbek Abdusattorov.